Welcome to the brand new Zach Lowe Show. That's right, I'm back to have the same in-depth NBA conversations you're used to. We're going to talk about the games. Yeah, the games, the X's and O's, the drama, the trades, the playoffs are coming up. And now you get to see every episode in full on video on Spotify and on my own YouTube channel. Episodes drop every Monday and Thursday with a collection of guests you're going to love. So make sure you follow and subscribe to the brand new Zach Lowe Show on Spotify or wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. Let's go! Welcome to the Ringer NFL Draft Show. My name is Danny Heifetz, and I am joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck. And the 2025 NFL Draft is over. We did it, boys. Cam Scatabo is a New York football giant. Shedeur Sanders is an NFL player and a Cleveland Brown. One of those is exciting, one is less so. But most important of all, the whole reason we're here, the reason we do this, Jack Sawyer is the Pittsburgh, the hero, Captain Jack, intercepted, is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Craig, is this the greatest moment of your entire life?
I don't know how I didn't see this coming because he's the most Steelersy draft pick of all time.
Yeah.
Isn't he? Like undersized, none of the metrics, but just like a gamer, makes things happen. He's out there. Big plays seem to come to him. He's the hero. And he's like the Herbigs. It's like he comes from the school of the Nick Herbig, and that's what the Steelers like, and he's going to be great.
Does it ever feel like we're in a simulation? Cam Scatabo to the freaking Giants, Jack Sawyer to the Steelers. It's just like, it's too good. It's working out too well for us.
Aaron Rodgers probably to the Steelers. Right.
Right.
Ironically, I don't actually know.
Gods.
I mean, Russell Wilson playing for our three teams is also one of those. Like, that's weird.
Also, what the hell?
I gotta say, I don't know if we've ever actually just referenced a college football player more than we've referenced Jack Sawyer. Can we play the clip?
Sawyer.
The greatest clip in the history of college football, as far as I'm concerned. Can we just play it?
Warren looking, and it's intercepted at the goal line. Unbelievable! Wow! Jack Sawyer! The hero!
Captain Jack!
Looking! I love the looking.
Dude,
We've never talked about a fourth rounder more. I guess Shedeur Sanders was a fifth rounder.
I was going to say.
We've never, the spirit of what we're saying, but we've never talked about a fourth round edge rusher more than we have Jack Sawyer.
No. So we're going to go through DK's got his draft grades, and you can read DK graded everybody's draft. So you can go to NFLDraft.com and you can see DK's grades for all 32 teams. If we don't get in depth enough on your team today, then you can go and read those there. DK, you love grading drafts. You're supposed to wait 3 years to grade a draft. You love grading drafts like less than 3 hours after it ends.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's the best. I actually kind of get annoyed when people say you can't grade a draft. It's like, what did we do all this work for before the draft?
No, that's a great question, DK. Actually, though, what did we do all this work for?
I just think it's like saying you can't grade a draft right away is like saying you can't talk about a game before it happens. It's like, we're allowed to talk about the things we have opinion on.
Sure,
I don't understand this.
Hell, you could be second, third, fourth.
Like I spent the last 4 months formulating opinions on all these players. I'm going to give my opinion on these players, all right? And the fit and all that.
It is funny, though, because it's an extension of a mock draft in that, like, you're still just being subjective about how you feel about a player. It's
100%.
like, I built my mock, and the grades are based on, did these teams pick the players that I liked?
Yeah, people are always complaining. It's like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen with these players for 3 years. That's right. We don't know what's going to happen before a game happens, but we can still talk about it. We can still analyze it. We can still have an opinion on how it works.
DK's mad.
I don't actually I don't love doing draft grades. It's not like the most fun thing in the world. But the fact that people get mad about draft grades is silly to me.
People get so, it's similar to the fantasy football when the machine spits out, you got a B-, and people are like, what? And I actually was talking to someone yesterday about this who's just a fan, didn't even really realize that I cover the draft or anything. They were just talking about, yeah, man, I read all, it was a Seahawks fan. He was like, I just read these Seahawks draft grades and I see someone giving us an A-. And I'm like, fuck you. That should be an A+. And he's like, I just feel that I just scroll through and I hate scroll. And I was just thinking about them coming upon your grades and just everyone who doesn't get an A is just mad at you. And that's okay.
Yeah. DK, when is the 2026 mock dropping? I'm excited.
Probably like next January.
Oh, dang. Not this week? Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go through the NFL Draft Superlatives, and we're going to go through, give out a bunch of awards, basically, or superlatives. DK seems to have strong opinions on that, too. What a superlative is and what is an award.
I've just looked up the definition of a superlative, that's all.
I don't know.
I love the fact, for those that don't know what we're talking about, Heifetz and Craig didn't know what a superlative was.
We did superlatives, and I just thought that's a different word for awards. So we're like, superlatives, like something. And DK's like, it has to have most or best. And I'm like, I don't care.
Right. The definition of the word, yeah.
Of all the things that I don't care about, it's this argument.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just going to move on. So just a reminder before we jump into this, we will, at some point this week or next week, we're going to change our name back to the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. We're not going anywhere. We do 4 episodes a week during the season. We do 3 a week in August. Like, we do so many episodes. And so if you found us during draft season, please stick with us. Like, not begging you, but kind of. But we do episodes every single week during the summer. Frankly, some of the most fun and definitely the weirdest episodes we do are over the summer in May and June when we get kind of squirrely. So stick with us. Hit follow or subscribe. If the name change thing just confuses you, just hit the button. And then that way there's nothing to be done. The feed is the same, but we changed the name because, it's really simple that way. So stick with us, and we are not going anywhere. We're not leaving. We're not leaving.
Don't touch that dial.
Don't touch that dial. I like it when Craig says it. Will you say it, Craig?
We're not fucking leaving. Oh no! Don't touch that dial.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, our first award here for the 2025 NFL Draft. Most humiliating weekend goes to Shedeur Sanders, who narrowly beats out Deion Sanders and Mel Kiper Jr. for this most humiliating weekend award.
Poor Mel.
Poor Mel.
Mel had an all-time
Mel
down
bad
bad
weekend.
Mel got dressed down by Reese Davis. He was like frustrated. You could see it coming out.
I love the phrase "dressed down."
Yeah, he did.
That's an old school phrase.
Shedeur Sanders goes 144th to the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur was the 6th pick of the 5th round. Which 144 picks, still ends up Cleveland Brown, which is just like, what a brutal beat. DK, we've had now a day to marinate on this. What do you make of Shedeur Sanders to the Cleveland Browns in the 5th round?
Dude, okay, first of all, just big picture, the Cleveland Browns, there was just so much going on with the Cleveland Browns draft. Like, from start to finish, I don't know what to make of it, because obviously, to start out, they traded back out of the Travis Hunter pick, which is, I think a decision that we're going to look at for years and years, and they could end up going down as like the team that passed on Travis Hunter. And so that's like how they started this draft out. Obviously, yada, yada, yada. You get to the 5th round. They've already taken Dylan Gabriel, and now they're trading up to get Shedeur Sanders. Just the most bizarre turn of events I can imagine. I don't understand what happened. I think, and people were making this connection. I don't know. I don't have any official, inside info on this, but it sure felt like and looked like, based on the reactions of, the GM and the head coach, Stefanski and Barry, that this had come down from the ownership to go ahead.
Oh my God. The video of the Browns draft room when they drafted him, and they're all just
expressionless.
Oh my God. Literally, it was,
it looked like they were in the
TV.
waiting room at a hospital.
Dude, someone tweeted that it looked like, posted on Blue Sky, that it looked like how people at a golf event clap when someone taps clap in for double bogey.
Yeah,
and they're just sitting there like,
it's very polite.
Yeah. Oh no! It looked like it did look horrible, and then it does seem like Jimmy Haslam, the owner, was just like, okay, I want this guy now.
Well, if you're into connecting dots, and if you're into reading between the lines about what Schefter tweets, I believe Schefter says, I want to say on the show right after the pick happened, Schefter was saying something like, Deion and Shedeur had quietly developed a good relationship with Jimmy Haslam over the last few months, which is, to me, just basically saying, look, he kind of stepped in. It doesn't make any sense to me to take Dylan Gabriel and then trade up and go get Shedeur Sanders.
I don't mind it at all, honestly, just from a pure value perspective. Like, Washington took Robert Griffin III and then took Kirk Cousins to the 4th round. Everyone's like, what? And then suddenly Kirk Cousins starting for the team a couple years later. I actually don't mind it. I think it's funny when you have Deshaun Watson, who's not going to be part of the team, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. What a crazy group of people.
Group. Yeah.
Nightmare blunt rotation.
Dude.
When you put it that way, I guess it does make sense. Ultimately, end of the day, the Browns had a pretty good draft when you look at, I liked some of the players they drafted for sure.
On that note, going through it, so the Browns traded back from the 2nd pick where they could have had Travis Hunter. They pick up Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, the top D tackle in the draft, put him next to Myles Garrett. The 1st pick of the 2nd round, they took Carson Schlesinger, Schlesinger or Schlesinger?
Schlesinger, I think.
The linebacker to UCLA, he's like the what is he? He studies biomechanics and everything, and looks like he's a Targaryen.
Super rangy, flies around, chases.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Always around the ball. He's an exciting player for sure.
And then they got Quinshaw Judkins, the running back at Ohio State, and Dylan Sampson, the running back out of Tennessee. So they kind of get a Thunder Lightning backfield. Harold Fannin Jr., who like broke all the metrics of Pro Football Focus for receiving grade, went to Bowling Green. So small school, that's weird, but also like one of the most productive tight ends we've ever seen in college football ever. And then Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, like all of these players individually are really interesting, all on the same team. The Browns kind of did a great job.
Plus, they got a first rounder next year. Just to be completely honest, if I'm looking at this, if you didn't show me the team that did this, I would have been like, oh, that's a great draft. Plus a first rounder. But since it's the Browns, it's just kind of weird because I just feel like they're so dysfunctional. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if we want to give a superlative, like the most unexpected redemption arc, I kind of think it's the Browns. I really do. I think if you redid the order of this draft, everybody would like it much more for the Browns. Like if you just slotted in Shedeur at the Quinshaw Judkins spot, like the round 2 pick 4, but it's the same guys. I think everyone's like, Browns crushed it. And then Dylan Gabriel's the last pick. Shedeur's their third guy, whatever. The Shedeur's their second rounder. I think everyone's like, wow, the Browns finessed this. They didn't take Shedeur in the
second round?
at 2.
Hell yeah.
They traded back. They maybe are going to get a top 10 pick next year from the Jags and maybe have their own top 10 pick next year. It's like they got 2 quarterbacks they can test out for this year. They might have 2 top 10, top 15 picks next year and could go after another quarterback if they wanted to, while getting 2 great running backs, an awesome defensive lineman, like and a tight end that can help fill in for Njoku, who's going to be like 30 years old this year. I don't know. I'm kind of like, I think the Browns kind of crushed it, and the Shedeur thing overshadowed all of it.
The Shedeur thing and the Travis Hunter trade. I think you have to factor in they traded out of Travis Hunter, which is, obviously it could end up looking really good for them. It could end up looking really bad. I think for fans, it's just like, man, that fucking sucks. Like just deflated feeling after moving out of that spot. But, it could end up being a really good decision.
Can I defend it for a second? Because I think I really actually might be the biggest believer in Travis Hunter of anyone in football media.
Right.
It's been funny to kind of realize that what I thought would be a very mainstream take, which is Travis Hunter will play both ways, kind of realizing like no one seems to believe he'll play full time, and everyone kind of thinks like people who think that are kind of, I think a lot of people think I'm dumb, honestly, for thinking that he can take up the physical brutality of full games. I'm like, he's a cornerback receiver. He's not a fucking guard tackle, but
he's running a lot of wind sprints out there.
Yeah, but I'll admit, I'm the first one to admit Travis Hunter doing the both, and clearly the Jaguars paid for the Travis Hunter trade for Hunter to play both ways. Literally, what they paid almost quarterback value, like everything the Jaguars have done and said. I mean, James Gladstone, Dookie Howser, the 34-year-old child GM, who is now like all-time legend to me, came out and basically was like, he had this whole, he sounded like a salesman. He was like, we took him to set the identity of our team because he pushes the boundaries of what could be. He sounded like the president in that, what's the movie where they send the drillers to asteroid?
Armageddon.
He sounded like the president of Armageddon talking about like if the asteroid destroys the earth. He's like, we are pushing the boundaries of everything. But Travis Hunter playing both ways is the hard road. Like it might not work. You're trying because he could be like one of the greatest players in the history of football. But like it's so complicated to do this. The Browns being like, if he did it for us, I don't know how good we'd really be. What if we just did something easier and took a shitload of picks and just built a better team? I think that for where the Browns are, that is the right move. It does seem complicated to do that. And for an owner as mercurial as Jimmy Haslam, you don't necessarily want a player like Travis Hunter on your team that requires such like thought. And I think that Travis Hunter makes so much more sense on a team like the Jaguars with Liam Cohen, who's like a very modern cutting edge coach who has you need a 3-year leash for your coach if you're going to take Travis Hunter. So I think it makes sense for both sides.
I think I saw Bill Barnwell, our buddy, talking about this on Blue Sky, like right after the trade happened. He was like, based on the reactions I'm seeing, which is like half, what a horrible, horrible trade for the Jaguars, and what a horrible, and then the other half, what a horrible, horrible trade for the Browns. It's probably pretty sensible for both teams ultimately. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just, if you're just going off of the overall reaction right away.
I think if you're trading down, if a team is trading up with you for a non-quarterback and you can get a first round pick the next year and all you do is you still stay within the top 5.
Right.
I feel like that's pretty damn good.
And they also got a second though. They got the Quinshaw Judkins pick out of this too.
Yeah, and like I agree with you, Heifetz, about I think Travis Hunter makes way more sense in Jacksonville. I also think because there already is Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter now not needing to be the number 1 receiver to shoulder the load of like being the go-to wide receiver, I think it makes a lot of sense. Him being the number 2, I think is the perfect fit for him trying to be this two-way guy. If he stepped into Cleveland, the quarterback situation's a mess, and he immediately becomes the number one receiver on the team. That is just way harder for Travis Hunter than already stepping in with Travis Hunter and with Trevor Lawrence and having Brian Thomas. Like, to me, it's just a much smoother transition.
He doesn't have to carry the team on his shoulders.
Yes.
The other thing we have to talk about while we're on the Browns is the old Deion Sanders tweet that started circulating after Shedeur went to Cleveland, which is Deion tweeting in 2018, and I'm going to quote, "Love what the Browns have done this offseason." This 2018. "Love what the Browns have done this offseason, but if I'm a young quarterback, ain't no way I'm going to Cleveland. I would pull an Eli Manning if possible." All caps, Eli Manning if possible. Hashtag think about that. Hashtag truth. Deion said that about Cleveland. And then flash forward 7 years later, record scratch freeze frame. Wow.
Do you guys feel bad for Shedeur?
Yes and no. I really feel strongly yes and strongly no. What do you think, DK?
The the prank call was pretty messed up.
Wait, what happened with the prank call?
Somebody pranked him and said,
what was it? These kids from Ole Miss called him. It's on video. I think this is real. I don't know. Called him and said, like, they pretended to be Mickey Loomis and said that they're going to take him. And he thought it was real, and they were excited. And then at the end of the call, the guys were like, just kidding, and hung up. And I think they're like students at Ole Miss, I believe.
That's kind of mean.
Also, there was a report that it was a number that was assigned to a phone for someone in the NFL. So they're like investigating this.
There's rumors that it's again, this is rumors. This is bullshit on Twitter. No idea if it's real. But there are rumors that it's Jeff Ulbrich, the Falcons defensive coordinator, the former coach, interim coach of the Jets.
Oh, my God.
That it's his son, Jax Ulbrich, who goes to Ole Miss. And he's in the video. And
sorry. Jeff Ulbrich's son is in the video?
Well, people are identifying his face, but he goes to Ole Miss and he's in the background of this video, and people think it's his son that was behind this call.
Yeah,
so Ulbrich, he just got fired. He was the Jets interim coach. He's a pretty respected defense coach, and he just got hired as the Falcons DC.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
again, to be clear, we don't know if Jeff Ulbrich's
no idea if that's true. It's a rumor online. Heifetz, I can't believe you didn't see the prank call.
That's messed. No, I did not.
It's super messed up. Like that, I was telling Liz. That's
messed up.
My wife couldn't be further removed from the NFL draft, and she kept being like, "Did that poor quarterback get drafted yet? I feel bad. He's falling."
Same with Skippy. She was like texting
That's
me.
That's kind of like creating one of the worst moments in your life to get, because like all these players say the call is one of the best moments of their entire life. It's the encapsulate. Even Shedeur, who I do think is still kind of and I think there is still like rich entitled kid coded thing with Shedeur where that kind of seeps out of him. Having said that, it still is the encapsulation of everything you've ever worked for in your entire life to get drafted. Right. That call is literally the encapsulation of all, and not just the discipline every day, but the sacrifice. Anyone good enough to be in the NFL draft has sacrificed a lot of like relationships, family time, like just they sacrificed a tremendous amount and persevered through a lot of adversity, even for someone growing up as rich and famous as Shedeur. And that phone call is literally your entire life. That's why you see grown-ass men like breaking down in tears. So to kind of like hand and then rip it away, like that's some real douchebag 19-year-old shit.
I mean, Shedeur has been force-fed humble pie for the last 72 hours. And if he succeeds, it'll honestly be one of the coolest stories in NFL history.
We joked about this with a bunch of other players where we've said this about multiple quarterbacks in the past where like I think we said this about Baker where it was like we joked about it, but we're like Baker probably would have been better going like 31st than first. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like Baker needs to be motivated, which is a joke, but like he kind of is always best when he's been counted out, even going back to college. Yeah. And I think Shedeur is, it's funny because the NFL is clearly saying he's not a starter, but in a way like motivated Shedeur also, I think he's going to make the team because one of these quarterbacks probably won't. I think NFL teams don't invest in quarterback anymore. It used to be normal for the Packers to carry 5 quarterbacks 20 years ago, and they just don't now. But Watson, Flacco, Pickett, Gabriel, Shedeur. Watson has to be on the team. And then
I hate to say it, but I feel like Kenny Pickett's got to go. I mean, Flacco.
I think Pickett has to go. Yeah,
Flacco. At least you can bring in the veteran presence. He can teach these guys.
Yeah,
I mean Gabriel and Shedeur drafting. I mean, maybe one of them gets cut, but realistically, if Jimmy Haslam wanted Shedeur, he's going to make the team. Dylan Gabriel, if they have the grade, he's going to make the team. And then Flacco's probably going to start.
The guy they traded for, Kenny Pickett, is probably going to be cut.
Can I be honestly, like Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur competing, I actually think that's smart. Even if it's a crazy process for Jimmy Haslam, the owner, to come in, to DK's point, if you just, it was like love is blind. If I thought the Ravens did this, I'd be like, great job, Ravens. And so
like
fucked up process, but it looks like a good plan from the outside.
In 3 years, if it turns out that Shedeur becomes the starter for the Browns and is pretty good in the league, like we will look at this as a masterstroke by the Browns because they're like, look, this kid obviously is feeling himself a little bit too much. I say kid. I don't really think he's a kid, but like that's
you're in your
what they're
40s.
saying.
You can call him kid. Craig and I can't because that's weird. But you're old enough.
I don't think I ever want to like actually use the word kid about a player.
They could be your son.
But you know what I mean. I'm saying from their point of view, this kid needed to be humbled a little bit. He's obviously feeling himself way too much, and like the way they orchestrated it, they literally took another quarterback before him. If that ends up working out in a couple of years, I mean, we will look back at that. It's like a really smart move.
And I know we're like harping on this, but the last thing I want to say is about why the other 31 teams didn't want to take him, including the Browns. The Browns didn't want to take him. This is very much a Ravens situation to me. If he ends up being good, I don't want to hear shit that the Browns knew because like they clearly didn't want him in the fifth, and the owner made him do it. Jonathan Jones for CBS reported Shedeur seems to have I'm quoting Jonathan Jones, sandbagged some of the interviews for teams he didn't want to play for. Now, obviously, just the nature of that information, I think that's like teams guessing. But the idea is, and this is like a report from, it was a very detailed CBS report from Jonathan Jones, who I think does great work, basically saying, I've talked to like a couple dozen teams about this basically, or maybe like 15 or so. And he was like, it really was the accumulation of all the stuff we were talking about. Like teams kind of did notice he tweeted every time the Raiders lost, thank God, last season. And they did kind of notice like, oh, they don't want to go to the Browns. And like, they did notice he retired, like Dion retired his son's jersey. And like, they did kind of like, oh, and then once the Raiders didn't get the pick, he was like in the Giants cleats throwing to neighbors. And like, then he's like, and they're like, and then they're whispering after he left. He's like, did he throw this interview? Did he try to be dumb? Like, did he try to be give a bad interview to us on purpose?
Did he work out or throw or
no,
do any testing at any point during?
Was that great?
Yeah. So, and I think it's like you said, it's the accumulation of all the different things that kind of happened during this draft process, which is why like my initial reaction was like, I don't really feel that bad for him, but like he's a human being. Obviously, this is really embarrassing, and I do feel bad for him for that. And he's not necessarily fully responsible for all of the things that are around him in terms of what I think teams view as distractions or fears. Like Trump is tweeting about him during the fucking draft. Like this stuff is not his fault necessarily.
No, so it's crazy weekend for him. I know we're talking about him a long time, but it was pretty absurd that Donald Trump, amid everything going on in the United States right now, was fucking
calling
tweeting him
GM stupid.
I think ultimately this might be the best thing that happened to him because if he went like third or even 22nd or something like that and was awful and came in and was terrible and was basically kicked out of the league in 2 or 3 years, like now, I mean, especially if he basically walked in and was entitled and was like, I'm good enough, I'm going to step in and be a starter, and then he collapsed. That's pretty tough, I feel like, on a human being to go through that. Now coming in as like the most disrespected draft pick of all time, eating all of that humble pie. Like, if anything is going to get this guy to like work his ass off and like be a starter in the NFL, it will be this. So I don't know. I kind of feel like if Shedeur is going to work out, it's only because of a situation like this.
And I totally agree, Craig. He like Jamie Lannister kind of weirdly became a likable character now with Shedeur. I also like the idea of Trump or whoever tweets for him, Dan Scavino or whatever. The idea that they're at like the Pope's funeral and they're just firing off Shedeur takes.
Tweeting about Dion.
That's just unbelievable. Okay, we can move on from
anyway.
The Browns,
you put on a hell of a show this weekend.
Crazy.
What was up with the? I'll use the technical term here in case people are in their car with their children. What was up with the scrotum on the screen?
Oh, the bone.
Man,
what was that?
It was like what do you call it?
For those who didn't see it,
teabag.
there's like a graphic they played with team logos, and the Browns one was a dog bone. Mm-hmm. But when you cover up the dog bone with the letters,
when you just see the bottom of
the dog bone,
sure looks like testes.
But the dog
moving
bone
like
was
a shake
bouncing
weight.
up and down and hanging and moving. Dog bones don't typically do that.
That
That's not a dog bone movement.
It's like even like a little
horrific.
veiny and stuff.
Yes.
That was like truly one of.
Why are there pubes on this bone?
You can't convince me that anybody thought that was a dog bone. Even the people who made it, they knew. They knew. Come on.
Oh my God. Really good.
Yeah, that's probably correct. Okay. Another team I want to give another Jamie Lannister candidate for most unexpected redemption arc. The New York Football Giants and Joe Shane. I got to tell you, when Joe Shane pushed Saquon Barkley out of that window in the first episode, I didn't think I would ever grow to like Joe Shane. Kind of thought I was out. And then, holy cow, the Giants get Abdul Carter from Penn State, who a lot of people had as maybe the best player in this draft. And if Travis Hunter isn't able to play both ways, Abdul Carter probably is the best player in this draft. They gave up two. I have questions about Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, But the Giants gave up two third rounders to get a quarterback, and if he's good, that's
not even in the same
trade.
year, which is kind of nice. It's like one this year, one next year.
It's a third rounder. You get a quarterback. They kept the better third rounder in the Dart trade, so they had the first pick of the third round, which the Giants never do. They always give up the higher pick in the round. Got Darius Alexander. DK, that was your number 46 player on your big board. The Giants got him 65th.
Yep.
Perfect compliment to Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, they kept scooping up really good value, especially according to my board. But I think like the consensus was every one of their picks was a really good value. You go from Darius Alexander, who, again, it's just going to be so fun to watch the Giants defensive line. Like, this was the identity of the championship teams back in the day. They are super deep on the defensive line. It's going to be fun seeing them battle against like the Eagles and whoever, like some of the best teams in the NFC, because that defensive line is really going to set the tone.
Am I biased? I was going to say it's a top 5 defensive line. I think Giants have a top 3 defensive line.
I mean, they could. I think they have the potential to get to that point. I really like Darius Alexander. You can't really depend on a third round, rookie to like put this team into the top 5, but I think ultimately they have a lot of talent on the defensive line now. They went and got Cam Scatterboo, which is super fun.
I was so thrilled after day 2, and then they start Saturday by getting Scatterboo. Ajax.
When that happened, it was like 9:00 in the morning over here, and I was like, Heifetz, turn on your TV.
Dude, I was losing. I'm not gonna lie. And also I'm in this weird thing where I probably should spoil the picks and have content out earlier. But I like watching the draft and not being on. I like knowing.
Like, you actually want to have a few moments of being a fan.
And I think sometimes, DK, you make fun of me for doing that. But the reason I do it is for the genuine shock of seeing the Giants select Scatterboo, which I actually never once considered that the Giants would take him.
I know. I didn't really think about them as a team either for him.
But he's perfect with Tyrone Tracy. Also, he is the most fun dude. Oh my God. I can't believe the Giants I can't believe it's Scatterboo.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I think Joe Schoen kind of crushed this draft. Even getting like Marcus,
don't forget, they got Marcus
Mboa
in the 5th round, who I thought was like worst case third rounder. You know what I mean? I thought that was incredible value. When I saw you guys pick him, I was pissed because I wanted the Seahawks to take him at that point. And then Thomas Fedone, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but at one point he was a pretty highly thought of tight end prospect, super athletic guy out of Nebraska. He had a couple of injuries in college, but he has some upside. I mean, I just liked pretty much every pick you guys made, other than like, I was just kind of like, I don't know if I really believe in the Jackson Dart thing, but at the end of the day, and again, this is a stupid pun, but like, you got to throw Dart at the quarterback position. Yeah. I'm not like, I'm open to the idea that Jackson Dart does develop into a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. So I think you got to take swings at that position, and they didn't have to spend a ton for it. A late first, and to get into that spot, like if you're trading up for a quarterback, usually it's going to cost you bare minimum a future first. And so, I mean, I like the value there.
Scatterboo's awesome.
Having
Scatterboo is so fun.
Dude, every pick the Giants made was arguably the best player in that round. Like, Abdul Carter might be the best player in the first round. I think you could argue that Darius Alexander is the best player in the 3rd round. You could argue that the Purdue guard is the best player in the 5th. And then the other players are quarterback, which you have to try into Craig's point. Scatterboo is one of the 5 most fun players to watch play football in the entire draft.
Completely changes the vibe of the team, the offense,
oh my God,
spirit of the team when he's out there. Like, there's just like a grittiness, like an energy that he brings. He's just so likable. The whole team feels different, I feel like.
The Giants quietly, Russ has already been named the starter, but if Jameis Winston steps on the field, the Giants are like very close to the top of the red zone rankings of Jameis with Blake Neighbors and Scatterboo on the field. Like, that's actually quietly pretty high on the I want to watch the team play football. And so that is my review. I am aware the Giants are far. I know I'm ranting about this too. I'm aware the Giants are very far from beating the Eagles. I am aware the Giants literally have to scrap and claw to make a wild card round, and this team is still kind of in quarterback purgatory, and Jackson Dart will probably suck. And I'm still kind of out on Dart a little bit myself, and I wish I was more excited about that. Having said that, the Giants offense has been one of the least watchable offenses the entire time both of you have known me. The Giants, even when the Giants made the playoffs, they were the most boring goddamn offense to watch. And for the first time in, I think, like, since 10 years ago, like when Odell Beckham was healthy and had a high ankle sprain, the Giants offense is going to be fun and interesting to watch. Maybe, or at the very least, Russell Wilson will miss Malik Neighbors and he'll be like mad and yelling about it. But like, this is an exciting Giants offense. I haven't felt that way in 10 years. And at some point I do want to go back to like watching my team and having fun, as opposed to like I hate watching this team every week. And I don't feel that way going into the season at all.
I kind of just wish Russell Wilson wasn't on the team. I wish it was just Jameis and Dart.
I do too. I do too. Yeah. All right.
So if it's not to get you jacked up about a player that probably won't end up doing anything, but
Do it.
Regarding Thomas Fidone II, he was the number 1 tight end of his recruiting class back in 2021. Guess who he was just ranked a little one spot higher than
Kyle
in that
Pitts.
recruiting class.
Year? What year?
In 2021.
Kyle Pitts.
Tyler Warren?
Brock Bowers.
Bowers.
He was the number 1 tight end in that recruiting class, ahead of Brock Bowers. Obviously, look, I'm not saying anything, but he was obviously very, very highly thought of at one point. So he was kind of on my radar just because of that.
Okay, so now I want to do the Bryson DeChambeau swinging for the fences picks, which I know is a mixed metaphor because that's baseball. But the Live Golf is in Mexico City right now, and all these guys are just like hitting drives 450 yards, and then Bryson does his like long drive thing where he can hit the ball 450. And I think some teams did that. Like we mentioned the Jaguars, but holy cow, like James Gladstar, the GM of the Jaguars, like truly like swung for the fences with this draft. Don't you feel that way, DK?
Oh yeah, big time. It was not a boring class, that's for sure. I saw somebody talk about this on Blue Sky. Basically, it's like a first-time GM will typically like trade back, accumulate picks because it's the safe thing to do. It placates the fan base. They're like, this is the right process or whatever, and you're not like putting too many eggs in one basket right away.
Nope,
like,
not Jimmy Stones.
He just freaking went out there. He went out there, and the first move he made essentially was to like mortgage the future of this franchise. It's like pretty wild.
Find the biggest guy in prison, punch him in the face.
Yeah.
I respect him so much because I think a lot of these people, and I'm not even judging them.
Stop calling me a child.
I think a lot of people get these jobs and they get a little afraid to make something big because the reality is even head coaches, it's more likely to get another job. The GMs very rarely get a second GM job.
Takes you forever. You have to like rebuild your reputation for like 15 years.
Oh, it's very difficult to get a second GM job. And this guy's 34. And the idea, like, I actually was a little worried that he would be scared because when they did the free agency class and they kind of just seemed to have used the Jaguar stuff and they're just giving, like, it just was a weird mix of players I didn't really understand. But I'm like, well, he had 2 weeks to do it. And then I look at this draft and I'm like, there is a vision here. I'm very impressed with what the Jaguars did. And again, maybe Travis Hunter will flame out, but you guys know how I feel. I respect not being afraid with an intelligent gamble. The other team that I think just absolutely swung. The Jaguars, DK. They got Bashal Tutin, your Devon Achane guy from Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I think it was interesting that some of the running backs actually fell into day 3. We were expecting, I think, a earlier run on running backs, but it happened pretty early in round 4. There was a run on running backs, and Tutin, I think that's a great landing spot for him. In terms of Etienne is either in the last year of his deal, probably there, or could get traded before the season ultimately. So Tutin has like a runway to maybe end up as a team starter sooner than later. Super explosive. I think he's going to give them that explosive element that they're looking for. Now with Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, and Tutin, who has incredible speed, like this offense is so much more dynamic.
And fast. Team.
Yeah, it's going to be an offense that you have to respect. You know what I mean? And so I love that pick. I think that's super exciting. Tutin and RJ Harvey going to the Broncos, I think, are two of the more interesting landing spots for guys that nobody was talking about that much prior to the draft. So yeah, I loved that pick, and I'm excited to see what he can do early on.
The other team that I think swung for the fence is the Falcons. Terry Fontenot, the GM, and Raheem Morris, the Falcons coach, just going and getting Jalen Walker, the pass rusher out of Georgia, probably a pass rusher, and then trading a future first to get James Pearson at Tennessee, and then swapping out, they got Xavier Watts, the safety out of Notre Dame, and they ended up getting Billy Bowman, and another safety out of Oklahoma. And they got a 7th round tackle. Doesn't really matter to me. But DK, now that we see what happened with the Falcons draft, what do you think of I guess the Falcons went for it.
I know they're moving up and down the board like they're a team that's one player away from being a Super Bowl contender. You know what I mean? Like this move felt like a team is approaching the end of their window for championship opportunity, and they're like, we got to get another pass rusher to put us over the top instead of a team that just hasn't had a pass rush in a decade or whatever. Like it was a very aggressive move. I don't love the idea that they traded a future first rounder to pick at 26. You know what I mean? That to me is pretty rare. Yeah. And so, I understand if you're giving up a future first rounder to pick in the top 10 of a draft or the top 15, but you're picking at 26. And so that pick next year, if things don't go well, if your quarterback gets hurt or whatever, if Penix get hurt, that's the story on him. He's just been hurt every year of his career, basically, other than the last one. And so this could end up being a top 10, top 15 pick. And it would be then at that point, it'd be one of the most atrocious trades I can think of. Obviously, if James Spears turns out really good, probably won't remember it that much, but I don't know. I just felt like this was a move a team makes when they feel like they're really close to being a Super Bowl contender, not a team that has holes pretty much all over the roster.
And on that note, and I think the Falcons, I've been saying for a long time, I think the Falcons are a defensive line away from being a real team. It's weird because they're the Falcons, so you should never believe. But here's the thing, DK. My fear with the Falcons move is there's two problems. One, I just feel like they're frankly trying to be the Rams. Like at the end of the day, like the Falcons, like Raheem Morris came from the Rams. Zach Robinson, the coordinator, came from the Rams. And I feel like there's one element of jealousy of Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. Like they're just, and I know they made the trade with the Rams, and maybe I'm being simplistic, but you know what? He worked there for a long time. Like I kind of do think, well, not a long time, but I do think that there is an element of wanting to chase that high. The other thing is, there's almost a weird element of we told the Falcons get a pass rush for so long, they almost missed the boat because everyone else is getting bigger on defense and trying to stop the run. Like all these other NFC teams, and we'll talk about that in a moment, they're all kind of gearing up to beat the Eagles, being like, we need huge people to stop these teams. And I look at the Falcons, I'm like, the run defense of like Jalen Walker and Pierce, so you're going to have to play. And I'm like,
they're both like 240 pounds or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. Like when the Falcons beat the Eagles in week 2, because that was the week the Saquon drop and Kirk Cousins actually had the great fourth quarter comeback. And I'm like, dude, if these dudes played for the Eagles would like pave over this defense. And that is one thing I'm watching for is like, they don't have a D-tackle presence on this team. They don't really have a great run D.
The first round pick is brutal. I mean, and giving it to the Rams is, I mean, if Michael Penix like misses a month or two and they trade Kirk Cousins, like that's a top 5-10 pick the Rams just got.
Press conferences are funny after the draft because you think they say nothing. But in reality, every now and then, like what guys think pours out of them. And I don't know if it's Jordan Rodriguez at The Athletic. Someone asked Sean McVay, what does it feel like to have 2 first-round picks after 8 years without any? And McVay just immediately was like, for now, we have 2. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, that's going to burn a hole in their pockets. So it's not just like, the Rams going to take 2 guys.
To move around and do some pretty interesting things. I was going to say the same thing, Heifetz. Like, you can't judge all trades this way, but the way that the Rams talked about doing this deal, they were basically like, it reminds me so much of like a dynasty trade that you make where someone sends you a first round, like sends you an offer for a first rounder for a player that you're not like that excited about. And you're like, oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. Like you like run to hit that accept button before they change their mind. Like that was kind of how it felt like the Rams were talking about this. It was like,
you like screenshot it and text your friend, like, am I missing something here?
Like, did this guy get hurt?
Did he get hurt? Right. Like,
has he been arrested?
So it was one of those things where it felt like, judging by the reaction of the Rams, I just feel like this is a bad move for the Falcons because they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll take your first for moving out of the 26th pick in the first round." Sure, of course.
Another just swinging for the fences team, just the Bears. Ben Swinging Johnson over here.
I know
with the Chicago
Very
Bears.
Aggressive. Yeah,
Colston Loveland, tight end of Michigan, and then they get Luther Burden, the receiver from Mizzou. And then they somehow get an offensive tackle named Ozzie Trapelo. I won't lie. I didn't know there was an Ozzie Trapelo in this draft. I'm going to be totally honest. And then Shamor Turner from the defensive tackle of Texas A&M, who I think is quite good.
They got a Ruben Hippolyte.
Hippolyte is wild.
The second.
Ruben Hippolyte the second. Kyle Mananja. There are some wild names in this draft. But it's
I had Ozzie Trapelo or Trapelo in my top 100. I think he's... I don't know if it felt like a little bit of a reach to grab him there because he's got some balance and leaning issues because he's like 6'8". He's a really, really tall guy.
6'8" guy named Ozzie is crazy.
His dad, I want to say, was in the NFL. 6'8", 316. So I think he's got a lot of potential. It felt a little bit like a reach at that point, but I mean, getting more offensive linemen is going to be a good thing for them. But I mean, this draft is going to be defined by Loveland Burden and kind of like what that can do for the offense. I said this on the other show, but I just love the idea of Ben Johnson. More than anyone, I trust him to like utilize his playmakers in the way that they're going to thrive. And so I'm really excited with what Loveland can do. And Craig, I know we went back and forth a little bit on Burden, but like, I'm getting really excited about what Burden can do because he landed in this situation with this coach. And so, I mean, this could, if Burden kind of keeps his head on straight, this could be like almost an ideal landing spot for him.
Yeah, I think there's like a decent chance that it's like week 4 and Luther Burden is immediately the best rookie wide receiver in the league.
I was going to say my new thing for this offseason is the week 1. Just a gut. I think it's a good gut check. Week 1 test. How many quarters of Luther Burden being great do you need to see until you're like, oh my God, is he like clearly the best receiver in this draft?
Probably because like two.
Two?
Right. I think 2. Last year, do you remember when Xavier Worthy scored 2 touchdowns in the first game for the Chiefs? And I was like, look, he's not going to score 2 touchdowns every game, but scoring 2 touchdowns in your first game, that's got to mean something.
It was also so. You know? I'll never get over that because we spent 5 months being like, well, you know what? Football isn't like a 40-yard dash, and then the Chiefs, the first touch he got, the Chiefs just recreated,
just ran faster than everyone else.
Well, they manufactured those touchdowns for this rookie, and you're like, yeah, they're manufacturing touchdowns. That for sounds a guy in his first game.
Manufacturing touchdowns is like the whole point of football.
Like how many players that were really excited about don't score 2 touchdowns in their first 7 games or 8 games? You know what I mean? Like 2 touchdowns in your first game. I know his target rate was like 12%. It's not going to continue on at that rate, but like scoring 2 touchdowns is cool.
Look, when someone as creative as Ben Johnson is like, I want fucking Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, I think the league is in trouble. And also, I still think Luther Burden, whatever questions there are about like his, I don't know what the hell the Luther Burden questions are. Basically, they're like, I don't know, NIL diva, whatever. If Ben Johnson could deal with Jamison Williams, I think Ben Johnson can deal with Luther Burden. That is my take. I'm going to go to Craig here because he's objective. Craig, how many times have I made fun of DK for saying that like a tight end is athletic or just an NFL player is athletic? I just hate that word because they're all athletic.
Probably
they're
more
athletes.
than you've mentioned Ted Lasso. It's
probably
a lot.
So naturally, my comeuppance, DK, your Seattle Seahawks, while we're talking about like swinging for the fences, your Seattle Seahawks had actually one of the most athletic drafts ever.
Yeah. It was pretty amazing. So Gray Zabel, according to the RAS score, the RAS score was, if you look at him as a guard, it's like a 9.9 or something like that. One of the most athletic guard prospects that they've measured at the combine. Nick Emanwari, literally the number 1 ranked safety of all time, according to RAS score. Elijah Arroyo, I should say, he didn't have testing this season because he was coming off an injury, but I want to say the GPS had him like 21.7 miles an hour or something like that, which is like legit receiver speed. Anything over like 21 is really, really fast. And the Seahawks were even talking about him as, you know, we didn't feel the need to go out and draft an X receiver because he is so fast and so explosive. And they might line him up on these like Y ISO moves out on the outside where he's just basically running X receiver routes. So that's super exciting. And then of course, Jalen Milroe, another guy that didn't test, but the athleticism was apparent on tape. He's one of the fastest guys on the field.
Dude,
every time he goes out there.
Saban said on game day, which I had heard this and I thought it was fake, but Saban said Jalen Milroe was the fastest player at Alabama.
Yeah.
And he's like, not fastest quarterback. Jalen Milroe was just straight up the fastest player on the team, which I had heard and thought was hyperbole.
Did that count? Actually, maybe he wasn't on the team with Jameson Williams, but he was on the team with Isaiah Bond, who's like insanely fast.
That's what Saban said. And again, Saban is literally a college recruiter. Like there's probably a lot of lying that he's very gifted at. But that is what he said. And he seemed like he meant it. Maybe I'm an idiot for believing what Nick Saban says, but I thought that was an incredible thing. I kind of didn't think that was a real thing.
I feel like there's times where you look at a player's testing times and you're like, I don't know if I really ever saw that on film. Like he just doesn't move like that on a football field. Jalen Milroe, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind. He's one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He's just so explosive. He has good vision. He's really slippery as a runner, and his footwork in terms of his acceleration, his ability to gather and cut is almost like a running back. He has a natural skill as a runner. The Seahawks already talked about in their post-draft presser. We're talking about utilizing him in like third down situations and things where they can, like basically what the Steelers did with Justin Fields.
That's why I wanted him, because I thought he made perfect sense for somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who like you don't really want on 4th and 1 QB sneaking.
So I actually comped him to Justin Fields. I think he's a little faster than Fields, but
I think
way
it's
that the
awesome
Steelers
just
utilize
having
him.
a Taysom Hill type on your team. Like like having that on your team makes so much sense. And Jalen Milroe is just like a souped up, hyped up version of that. And I think it's awesome.
Milroe is why I put this in swinging for the fence. I think this is to me the highest upside pick in the entire draft. I think that Milroe there was playing from the pocket in Alabama. They're absolutely Nick Saban was the first to talk about like how much work he needs to do. Going to Seattle, where Milroe does not have to play for 2 years because of Sam Darnold, like
kind of perfect.
It's rare that you get a quarterback where the floor is, damn, like he's probably going to be like Taysom Hill. We don't talk about this a ton because the Saints suck. Taysom Hill as a goal line quarterback is like unbelievable, and the idea that Jalen Milroe at his worst case is he can just be a goal line quarterback for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And like his upside is straight up like a top 6 quarterback in the NFL. I am more jealous of the Seahawks getting Jalen Milroe than any pick in the draft.
I think there's like a small chance or big chance, I guess, but that we're kind of like gassing ourselves up about
Yeah,
Monroe. He was a third round pick.
He's
for
a third
reason.
round quarterback. He could suck, but it's a third. But look at all the other third round picks. Like the upside of a third round guard is not that
That's
high.
exactly what I was going to get to. Is basically like in the third round. I mean, if you look at the hit rate of a first rounder, it's like 50%. A third round hit rate is really low in terms of getting a really good player, a Pro Bowl type player. I think Milroe, like I said the other day, his in the range of outcomes. Superhero is in that range of outcomes. I don't think it's very unlikely he'll reach that, but this is exactly the type of like backup quarterback you want to have on your team.
He's also the first who will admit that he has a lot to work on, which is cool. He seems like a very upstanding guy, character guy. But DK, are you a little worried that the quarterback that Jalen Milroe will have to learn from is none other than Sam Darnold?
Yeah.
Like Jalen Milroe needs, like, basically it's like, could he develop into a pocket passer? And the guy, can he make good decisions? And the guy who he'll be learning from is Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I mean, yes, when you put it that way, that's not like my favorite thing of all time. But yeah,
like they need to bring in like a Flacco type, you know?
Well, they have Drew Lock. Maybe he's a vibes guy.
Right,
I don't know. Drew Lock seems like he's having a lot of fun all the time. He's had the disadvantage of kind of being a backup when he's expected to be a starter for, a couple of years. So you can maybe teach him about being a pro and preparation and all that stuff.
You want Drew Lock to teach him about being a pro? Drew Lock, who forced the Broncos into a situation where they had to play Kendall fucking Hinton at quarterback?
Yeah. Drew Lock, great.
Drew Lock, who cost the New York Giants the fucking first pick in the draft by being 07 Tom Brady for the only time in its entire life. Sorry.
Drew Lock threw 4 touchdowns in that game. Hell yeah.
Looking now, would you rather have had the first pick and have Cam Ward right now, or exactly what you have currently?
It worked out really well, but if the Giants were happy with Carter, the idea that you could have traded, it's the same thing as like Bill Simmons keeps saying, where it's like, they could have traded out of the pick and gotten, like the Titans probably would have traded up for Cam Ward, or gotten literally anything. So at the very least, you could have got that Travis Hunter package, which I would like. I would have liked the option to get the Travis Hunter package, another, But anyway, yeah, and I know we said it already, but Nick Emmanwari, the safety of South Carolina, the only safety to ever get a 10.0 relative athletic score from the NFL Combine. So it's just an insane. Seattle got an awesome thing. It's really cool.
I know the Seahawks used to be really into like the spark score stuff. Like they used to use that, but a lot of the time they would draft really athletic guys and then try and like move their positions. In this draft, they just drafted a bunch of guys that are super, super athletic and are going to play the positions that they know how to play. So I'm pretty excited.
That's how I recruit in college football 25. Just, we'll figure out your position later. Speaking of Seattle, Ichiro, I want to do the Ichiro for just like the best at just getting on base. Like if those other teams were talking about hitting home runs, these teams just hit singles. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Craig, your Pittsburgh Steelers, just over and over, just getting on base with all these picks.
Classic Steelers draft. They take smart defensive players. They get a running back that fits the scheme. This is classic Steelers. Derek Harmon in the first round, the D tackle out of Oregon. Also, super sad story that it's beautiful, but also quite tragic. His mother was basically on her deathbed, and he was able to make it to the hospital after he got drafted to tell her that he was drafted. And then shortly after, she passed away. Extremely sad story, but also very touching. Like, so amazing that he was able to do that, to see his mom in a moment like that before she died.
That is insane. We don't have to get all sappy about it, but like there is something, those stories, nothing to me hits like those stories where it sounds like someone's like holding on for something to experience it. Mm-hmm. And like, the stories of like, like couples where like, one of them goes and then the other goes like 2 weeks later, but they're like 100 years old. And you start to think like, oh my God, maybe there is like, I don't know. It gets, I don't know. It's hard
it was emotional.
You
could see on his face the pain, when he was drafted in the, whatever the draft room that they were hanging out doing that. You could just see the pain on his face. You know what I mean? It was like a very bittersweet moment, I'm sure, for him. So this is like a good reminder of the human element of all of this. So many of these guys have incredible stories. Jack Bash, obviously, incredible story. A very tragic story, of course. But like throughout the draft, you just hear so many of these stories that you hadn't really considered before or heard before. Yeah. And I'm busy like grading these guys' acceleration or, whatever, their hands when they're catching the football. And it's like, man, obviously these are human beings with really complicated backstories. And it makes it more poignant and, obviously like the human side of everything is really cool to see.
Like, like on that. So, I mean, while we're being all sap, like I next to Deion during one of the shooter things, there was a baby. And I was like, whose baby is that? And it was Deion Sanders has a daughter. I believe named Deandra. And Deandra, I was just looking into it, and she had a couple very like difficult it was just like it was a complicated birth, basically, because I remember Dion saying something about like we've had a tough year, and I was just like, what? And like even something like that, where Dion, who's is famous, and like who's more of a fair target than Dion, like who's asking for more attention, like you are in the public sphere, and even something like that, I'm like, yeah, and that that's one of the reasons it is fucked up to call Shedeur on draft. You know what I mean? You don't know what anyone's going through, so. As we just probably are going to go back to making fun of a bunch of players, but no, the Derek Harmon thing is the quickest. Tears have come out of my eyes in a long time. That was like beautiful.
So you're
it's
happy
also
with
great at football.
You're happy with the draft overall for the Steelers?
This is exactly what I wanted them to do. I'm thrilled, to be honest.
You like the Will Howard pick a lot.
I mean, look, he's a 6th-round quarterback, so you can't get too excited. But
we met Will Howard.
We met him. Nice guy.
Right.
He's gonna be great.
Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Hall of Famer. Was sick in the college football playoff on Ohio State. And look, if he's a backup for a couple of years, you never know. You compared him to Matt Hasselbeck, DK. Like, if he turns into Matt Hasselbeck, I would be thrilled with that.
He just reminded me of Hasselbeck. And guess what? He was picked 185, and I believe Hasselbeck was the 187th or 9th pick or something like that. So
Howard has to
similar
sit.
Backstory.
Will Howard has to sit, and I think he could be okay. He has to sit, though. But
and I didn't love Caleb Johnson in the pre-draft process, but him with the Steelers, everyone calls him Mini Derrick Henry, and putting Mini Derrick Henry with Arthur Smith, there are worse.
The scheme fit is
pairings.
perfect.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. And also, DK, while we're here, is Jack Sawyer actually good or what?
He will be. You just know he will be.
So the thing about him is, and the reason he fell to 4th,
he's going to make some huge pick in a wild card game, and everyone's going to be like, Jack Sawyer, the hero.
I think the main reason he fell is he's just not explosive. Like, just plain and simple, not explosive player. He is a former like big time recruit. I want to say he was a 5-star recruit. He's obviously very good at football. He's one of those guys that's going to have to win with power and guile and like hand use and all that stuff. And just the savviness. It's all the white coated stuff, of course. But like
Jim Rat.
But like
reminds me of Kyle Vanden Bosch.
He was not, when I was watching him, he's not explosive, but I still kept thinking like he's just always in the right place. He's always, I think he'll probably end up being like a rotational guy for you guys. And like I said, he's just in the right place at the right time. Has a good feel for the game.
Blake Cashman,
he's probably never going to be he's probably never going to be a 10 sack guy or whatever. Blake Cashman was not my comp. Well, who was it?
Wasn't it?
No.
Oh.
Let's see here. Probably a white guy, let's be honest. No, I said Derek Barnett. Kind of like a slow but like technically sound rusher.
Okay.
Maybe never
also not a white guy, so good job.
Not a double-digit sack guy probably, but like a solid rotational player.
The Steelers also drafted a guy named Yaya Black, which is like the coolest name ever.
And again, Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, Yaya Black, defensive tackle. Again, the Ravens ran for 299 yards on Mike Tomlin's defense in the plaplayoffs, and they just literally
a very Steelers-y draft.
So Steelers did a great job. The other one, again, just while we're here, just like getting on base, dude, the Raiders, I am very impressed. And again, the Derek Harmon thing, the Jack Besh being like, you're not getting one player when you take me, you're getting two, because I'm like Tiger's always with me because he's talking about, his brother passed away in the terrorist attack, and just like, that's the Raiders' transformation into the most lovable team in the NFL is pretty it was very quick. So and I also just think they got a bunch of good players. Next up here, Craig, you want to take this one?
Yeah, this is the Arrested Development Bland Award. Has there been an under-discussed first-round pick?
First overall pick as there is with Cam Ward. I mean, we joked about how we didn't talk about Trevor Lawrence in the lead up to that draft 5 years ago because it was like we all knew it was going to happen. But Trevor Lawrence was also like this kind of bankable talent that we felt there wasn't much to talk about after because we kind of assumed, he was the best prospect since whoever, Andrew Luck. Cam Ward is like this interesting, we don't know if it's going to work out pick, and yet because of all the Shedeur chaos, the Travis Hunter trade up, literally no one's talking about the first overall pick in the draft, a quarterback, Cam Ward, going to the Titans. Like, no one. It's so wild.
He was like sobbing and weeping, and they showed a video, I think it was of Cam Ward's father making a video about how it's like I think the video was like, you've inspired 0-star recruits everywhere. It was more poetic than that. But Cam Ward was like bawling, like weeping, honestly weeping. And I don't think
that is pretty wild. That is pretty wild.
It is cool. And again, I know I'm sappy of this, but the Cam Ward thing, big picture to me, I think it's interesting that Cam Ward is the most modern first pick ever, in that this is such a function of the NIL transfer portal era. There is zero Cam Ward chance that he ends up in 10. Again, Cam Ward got a 5th round grade from the NFL Draft Advisory Committee last year. It's not like he'd be the 5th quarterback. He was a 5th round grade last year. Like, that's insane.
Well, that was exactly what happened with Burrow, too. Remember?
Yes, it happened with Burrow, yeah.
That last year in college really can make a difference, and it really can move the needle. Sometimes it's like a red herring, and it doesn't end up being it doesn't end up working out, like Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, I think, probably had the same situation where got a bad grade from the advisory board and then went back and was awesome in his final year in college.
I would argue it worked out as well as it could have for Kenny Pickett, but yeah.
Sure. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, he wasn't very good. But sometimes it's like that extra year in college is that experience that you get. It really does change who you are as a player. And you know, I'm a believer in Cam Ward. I think there's a chance they could look back on this and be like, damn, we passed up Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter and our quarterback isn't that good. But I really think he has a chance to be like a foundational, franchise quarterback for them.
I agree. I think the Titans offensive line is going to work out, to be totally honest. Like, I am a believer that, like, maybe I'm a simp, but like the Bill Callahan, there is a history of like 30 years basically of year 1, the line's all right. And then year 2 under Bill Callahan, the offensive line gets a lot better. And I think that as much as I made fun of them for paying Dan Moore Jr. to left tackle, that's the price of you overpay for competence. The Panthers overpaid for competence with the Carolina. Guess what? You know what? It was worth paying like $100 million guaranteed to the 2 guards if it means Bryce Young actually is your quarterback. Like, sometimes you do got to get what you pay for and overpay if it means, like, in the grander scheme. And I think that paying to give Cam Ward a real line where you can move J.C. Latham to right tackle, you have Skoronski at left guard, you have Kevin Zeitler at right guard, you have Cushenberry at center. Like, that's a good line. It's easier to get receivers and add to their bad receiver room. They got Tyler Lockett, but like, it's easier to upgrade
Lockett.
that
We didn't really
than the
talk
line.
about that.
They also drafted our guy, DK Elikai Manor.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got him in the 4th, I want to say.
So
they drafted Gunnar Helm, the tight end from Texas, who has really good hands. He's like a big red zone target. Ultimately, I kind of like what they did all throughout the draft. I mean, they even got, this is kind of an underrated story that we might be talking about by the time it comes training camp, but Xavier Restrepo, the top receiver from Miami, who ran like a 4.8, he ended up signing a UDFA undrafted free agent contract with the Titans. So he's reunited with Cam Ward. Dude, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he makes the team and is like, by year 2 is like starting for them.
He could be year 1 starting because, like, just being, look, Cam Ward is one of the reasons he went first is he is able to play in the pocket, but he's also able to, like, make off script plays. Mm-hmm. And weirdly, this rookie Xavier Restrepo is going to easily have the best chemistry with what Cam Ward's looking for in a given play if he can get on the field.
Just one of those guys that's a football player. He ran a 4.8, so that's like,
I think Restrepo's going to be good. I think that will work. But to the point, and belaboring it, but again, he's the first pick. We barely talked about him. Cam Ward, I'm very sappy about this. I think this is the American dream. Like, literally 1 D1 offer from Incarnate Word to the number 1 pick in the draft. Yeah, that is a very American dream story, and it's a very modern college football story. And I think it's really ironic that Tennessee Titans get this guy almost entirely because of the transfer portal, like 2 weeks after, the University of Tennessee Volunteers lose the quarterback Nico. His name is Iamaleava, but let's be real. Everyone's going to call him Iamaleava. Like, everyone's going to call him Nico Iamaleava because, like, he transferred out.
I'm not going to be working here anymore.
Dude, he's like also like part of the transfer portal history now. He's part of college football history. Nico's just like goes to the spring game as part of a negotiation. And then Tennessee was like, go kick rocks, son. You're off the team. All the coaches were thrilled that the other coaches around the league or the country were happy that Tennessee did that to him. He goes to UCLA. The UCLA quarterback transfers to Tennessee. It was basically a trade, which is crazy. But, like, it is so funny to me that, like, as everyone in tennis, like Tennessee Volunteers fans are like, damn, the portal sucks. Then the Tennessee Titans draft this quarterback almost entirely because the portal exists. And it's like such a double-edged sword, but it's funny to me. It was like the same 2-week period. Anyway, I don't know if anyone cares about what I just said, but.
No, I think it's interesting.
Okay.
And is he going to get more money at UCLA than he was going to get at Tennessee?
I think he kind of blew it a little, but I think that there's a dad situation there that, like, it's not just Dion. Like, there's a whole archetype of, like, there are like snowplow dads or like just helicopter AAU dads. Like, there are more LeVar Balls than you think behind the spotlight. I mean, Kyler's dad, Tua's dad. Like, there's a lot of these dads that are very involved. I mean, Caleb Williams, who I think his dad gets a bad rap, but there's a lot of, sometimes being an NFL quarterback, like, you need a vision early on. It's like Gronk's dad was having them do weight training at 8 years old. It doesn't happen by accident sometimes. So I think that that just happens sometimes. But the Nico thing, it sounds like his dad was negotiating or something with Tennessee, and basically he was getting, I think, $2.4 million, and I think they saw Carson Beck go to Miami for $4 million, and they were like, well, Nico's better than Carson Beck.
Yeah.
And then Tennessee was like, we gave you a contract. Like, they paid you $2.4 million a year over for 4 years when you were a high schooler, and you want to renegotiate now. They're like, no. And so the whole thing's, there are no rules.
It's Wild West out there now.
I hate it. They need to make changes. They need to regulate this shit.
It's weird. I want the other group. We can group these teams, and DK, I'm curious which of these you think is the most interesting. I think the group that's funny to me, the most overcompensating teams. I think all these, we talked about the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and all these teams trying to be the Eagles. I got to tell you, all these teams trying to beat the Eagles. Like the 49ers, the first 5 picks were defensive linemen. Defenders. The Bills' first 5 picks were defenders. The Lions went and got trench guys. The Chiefs had a trench draft. Like, it is hard not to look at what the Bills, Lions, Chiefs, 49ers did and not think they are thinking about the Eagles in the back of their mind. With the Niners in particular.
The Bills in particular, I think, are the interesting one. What were we going to say about the Niners?
Whatever you want. The Niners just got huge. Like the 49ers just got massive human beings.
I think you could say the Bills went further on that. So maybe if you're the Bills, you're looking at like, we can't get past the Chiefs. Who is the team that just beat the shit out of the Chiefs? What's the thing that they do? They dominate on the defensive line. The Bills, obviously, they picked a corner in the first round, but then they turn around and got TJ Sanders, who is massive. They got Landon Jackson, an edge from Arkansas, who is, he's more of like a power rusher. He's a huge guy, 6'6", like 260 or something like that. Big power rusher. They went and got Deone Walker from Kentucky, who is, I think he's 6'8", 330.
Whoa.
He's legit massive. And so just looking at their draft, I'm like, man, they really wanted to beef up on this defensive line. And they already have like some pretty big defenders already. So I don't know. I just thought the Bills doing what they did was pretty classic. It's like, man, we gotta figure out how to get past the Chiefs, and maybe just having a massive, massive defensive line is the way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I think that's actually dead on, DK. So we think about all this stuff is very complicated with team building, but the Bills did. Yeah, I think you're 100% right. The Bills watched the Eagles kick the shit out of the Chiefs, and they're like, oh my God, we need to
sign Joey
do that.
Bosa.
Yeah.
They already have Greg Rousseau, who's a massive human being. AJ Epinesa is like a power rusher off the edge. This is just like they're very much loading up and trying to turn teams into one-dimensional. So basically make other teams one-dimensional. Don't let them run.
The 49ers did that too, because you look at the Niners, and again, the Niners went from being the Eagles with defensive line depth 3 years ago to having none, honestly, after Nick Bosa. And the Niners went and they got Michael Williams, the edge from Georgia. And then they went and got
Demogorgon.
Demogorgon with the Demogorgon arms. And then you have Alfred Collins, who's another massive defensive tackle from Texas. Huge
big
person.
Boy.
Again, Alfred can only be a huge guy if you're named Alfred.
We'll call him Alf.
Also, he's related to Trent Brown, isn't he? Isn't he like Trent Brown's nephew or something?
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Trent Brown. What's Trent Brown? 6'7"?
Trent Brown, also massive.
Dude, Alfred Collins, 6'6", 330. And he moves well.
And so,
he's a powerful guy.
Yeah, and they went with CJ West, the defensive tackle from Indiana. He's also how big? He's also just but to me, that's the theme.
He's like a bowling ball in the interior defensive line.
And part of that, I know, is the nature of this draft. But DK, I really do think that this is teams looking at Philadelphia and they're like there is some element of like, these teams got pushed and they're like, I don't want to get pushed around by the Eagles anymore. Like, not figuratively. Yeah. They literally are tired of being pushed by the Eagles. The Packers are trying to legislate it out. Everyone else is like, oh, maybe we'll just beat them.
It really is the old cliche. And we talk about it all the time, how the NFL is like the pendulum swings one way or the other. It's like teams get lighter and faster, so the defense has to get lighter and faster, and then the pendulum swings back. The offense starts going with heavier guys, run the ball, and then the defense has to adjust. And yeah, I think apart from the fact, I think it obviously also matters that this is just a really good defensive line class. Like there was a lot of really good defensive linemen in the class. But yeah, I mean, I think teams were looking at it, and this is what I was going to say, is the cliche is, if you can't stop the run, like you just can't do anything. If a team can run on you, they'll just stay on the field the entire game. You know what I mean? They'll just keep getting first downs. They'll control the football. They're not going to turn it over as much. And your odds of winning those games, they just like squeeze the life out of you. So I think teams are starting to realize, like, look, we actually have to be able to stop the run. I know doesn't sound that important in the modern game when you have all these superhero quarterbacks, but teams have to stop the run, or you just become like, you can't get off the field. You can't get off the field on defense.
Yeah, it really does come around. Okay. Are there also, while we're here talking about the Eagles did really well too. I mean,
I know all the good teams had like really solid drafts. I thought all the top teams in the NFL, the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, liked their drafts.
I'm just furious that the Eagles got Jihad Campbell, linebacker at Alabama. Like, I hate that. Andrew McCuba, the safety out of Texas. Like, they had a good draft. And it's annoying.
Fun players. Ty Robinson's another good defensive
Who's this
lineman.
Cam Williams, the 6th-round tackle that the Eagles took out of Texas?
Cameron Williams, he was getting first-round buzz for a minute there during last season. He's not a first-rounder, obviously, because he's just not very technically sound. He's pretty raw, but he is built like a brick shithouse. So he is built like a prototypical power offensive lineman. I'm so mad that the Eagles got this guy. Stoutland is probably going to coach him up and turn him into a all-pro type player. Like, that's just like, I remember seeing that.
Jordan
like,
Mailata, the left tackle for the Eagles.
Yeah, of course the Eagles took this guy. But he's raw, and I think he has a lot of work to do, but he is, like, if just go look him up, he looks like he's going to turn into an all-pro.
That's infuriating. All right, DK, are there any other drafts we haven't talked about that you loved? Or any ones you did talk about, but is there anyone in particular we haven't mentioned?
Honestly, my favorite draft, and I'm not doing this, is the immediate reaction for everyone was like, oh, quit trying to suck up to Bill Simmons. I really loved the New England Patriots draft. They had like as good of a draft as you could do from the position that they were drafting in. Obviously, like winning that game late in the season and losing out on the option of drafting Travis Hunter sucks for them. But I really like their draft, basically start to finish. Will Campbell in the first round, obviously get a potential 10-year starter on the offensive line. Travion Henderson, explosive, going to complement Ramondre Stevenson perfectly. Obviously, getting him in to protect Drake May is going to be huge. So their first 2 picks are very good players in pass protection. So that is, like, of course, exactly what you want for your young quarterback who got the shit beat out of him last year. And then Kyle Williams in the 3rd round, who really good route runner, is going to get open early in his routes. He has take the lid off the defense type speed as an outside guy, can kind of play all over the formation. He could end up being a starter for them right away. Jared Wilson, Georgia center. He was like one of the top centers in this draft. A lot of people really liked him. He's just a 1-year starter, so he's a little inexperienced, but again, another one of the most athletic centers we've ever seen, according to the RAS score. Josh Farmer was another guy I had in my top 100. He's another guy that's just built like a brick shit house. He's so powerful on the inside. Not a big pass rusher, but a guy that will like collapse the pocket, defend the run, just super powerful. I think he has a lot of upside. And then Braden Swinson, LSU edge, another guy that I had in my top 100. Just he just looks like a pass rusher. Just big, tall, long, explosive guy. I think he's still ascending. So I think they got 6 guys in my top 100, which is by far the most of any team. So I just thought they did a great job.
You just stuck to Bill Simmons.
Anyway, I'll be on Bill Simmons pod soon.
Check your bank account, and you just got a raise.
No, unfortunately, I agree with you, which sucks. I think
I'm not the only one who's saying this, by the way.
The truth is worse, which is the Patriots did a good job. We could, Craig, is there anyone that you liked? Any of the drafts that you liked, Craig?
Yeah, I have to admit, I kind of like what the Jets are doing. I think just holistically, not just with the draft, but with their entire rebuild. I think sometimes the rebuild feels inauthentic. You're not buying it when the new coach comes in and he gives the speech and you're like, I just don't feel it. And with Aaron Glenn, I feel it. He's like the no BS. He's kind of the silent type, which I really respect. He's kind of like, we're going to prove it on the field more than we are going to prove it, at the press conference. I like that every time he's asked about stuff, he's kind of just like, they ask him about Aaron Rodgers, whatever. And he's like, I love Armin Membu. He's going to be great.
He just ignores the question.
He just ignores it. And I actually think that's it's the opposite of a circus. And the Jets have been a circus for as long as I can remember. And it actually finally feels real this time that they're not going to be a circus. Like, they went in, they made smart picks. They took Armin Membu, a right tackle. The offensive line is going to be like really young, really good. They got Mason Taylor. They got like a very good tight end to slot in and be an immediate starter.
Not flashy, not like a big, speed guy or anything. It's just a really good football player.
It just feels like they made a bunch of smart picks to build a foundation that backs what Aaron Glenn is bringing. Even they got the corner in the 3rd round, Azareye'h Thomas, who they got him 73rd overall.
He was getting first-round buzz for a little while.
Yeah, they got him 73rd overall. DK had him at 38th on his big board. Yeah. I just kind of like what the Jets are doing. I know obviously it's Justin Fields at quarterback. I don't really know. But they're building something that feels real for the first time to me.
I'm allowing myself to kind of get excited about the Jets offense this year, just because, like you said, they have a really good offensive line and they have the potential to have a really good offensive line. I think a lot of young guys, but obviously they've invested a ton in this offensive line. And then Justin Fields, just as a runner, is incredible. He's an amazing runner. I don't know what he's going to do as a passer. That's always been the problem. But they could be one of those teams that's like strangely hard to defend just because they can run the ball so well. Both of their running backs, or all three of their running backs, are really good. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis. Craig would probably quibble with me saying Breece Hall is really good, but that's fine. Hopefully he's healthy this year. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fun team to watch, actually, I think.
I kind of keep wondering if Justin Fields is the next Sam Darnold. Obviously, Justin Fields could be bad. It's not. I mean, it's his 5th NFL season. Like, Justin Fields could be bad, obviously. However, I keep thinking about the situations that Justin Fields failed in. A Bears team that was horrible with a terrible offensive line that threw Justin Fields to the wolves in week 3. And I think Justin Fields, like, he kept playing like the Super Bowl champion Bucks and all these Myles Garrett and all these incredible defenses to start his career. And he couldn't. And like, Justin Fields was not the right kind of quarterback to learn under a bad offensive line. And you look at the Jets' line with Olu Fashanu at left tackle and Membu at right tackle, AVT at right guard. Like, the Jets if they should have a solid offensive line. And I kind of do wonder if Justin Fields with time actually circles back and is 80% as good as we thought he would be when we thought he should be the 2nd pick in the 2021 draft. And I'm not going to bet on the Jets because they're the Jets. And I'm not as optimistic about it because he doesn't have the Kevin O'Connell in this or the Justin Jefferson that Darnold did last year. But I do wonder if Fields is the next. I mean, how many times do you have to see a Geno Smith, a Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young last year, Darnold, who were like, clearly, like, when these guys who are talented go to the right situation. I don't know about the Jets offensive coordinator, but I do wonder if Fields could be something like that.
I think that they need. I like that. I like that thought. I wouldn't rule it out, obviously. If you're looking at the Jets receiver core, though, it's pretty barren. Outside of Garrett Wilson, there's nobody I feel confident in.
They have no one under contract.
But it's why they should just fucking run the shit out of the ball and make that their identity.
Yeah,
and Heifetz, being like, they're ultimately the Jets, which is why I don't want to bet on them. That's why Aaron Glenn is making them not the Jets to me. Like, he's taking them out of that mold. And I wouldn't even say, also, Justin Fields, I wouldn't say he failed in Pittsburgh. He went 4-2. He threw 1 pick. I think he had 5 touchdowns, 1 pick in his 6 games with the Steelers. He went 4-2. They beat like the Falcons, the Broncos, the Chargers, and they lost the other 2 games by 3. Like, Justin Fields was not bad with the Steelers. It was just Russell Wilson was sitting there behind him, and they had to make a call. But I kind of liked what Justin Fields was doing last year a little bit, to be honest.
I wish he'd gotten the chance. So does Justin Fields, obviously. But my only issue with the Jets is the other redemption stories are, generally speaking, like pretty good offensive coordinators or guys that had a lot of time. Geno Smith, I think, is harder one to compare because he was a backup for so long that he has so much more experience. Baker was revived with Liam Cohen, who was brilliant, and Dave Canales.
But we didn't know Liam Cohen was Liam Cohen before he became Liam Cohen, right?
I think a lot of these coordinators, it is very difficult to gauge how good they are.
Right.
Liam Cohen, I think, is the exception. Like Sean McVay, I mean, Liam Cohen was so respected and influential, even when he was in college coach, talking to these guys in the offseason, and then I don't know. I think Liam Cohen, but for the most part, you're right.
We have no idea what Tanner Engstrom could be. He was with the Lions for a long time, so maybe there's something there. But
so why isn't he the Lions offensive coordinator?
Right,
that's my question.
That's a red flag.
Like if he was so good, you think Dan Campbell would be like, because he would be the offensive coordinator for the Lions. They went to the Jets, which would suggest Dan Campbell did not want to be the Lions offensive coordinator.
Did not seem as the heir apparent. Yeah.
That, to me, is a red flag, frankly. Other than that, I think Justin Fields could be good. Other drafts, the Cowboys draft, I hated it because I thought it was good. I think the Cowboys did really well. The Cowboys are a punchline because Jerry Jones, we make fun of them. I know where the sun's going to be almost a year from now. However, the Cowboys have stayed relevant in large part because they're incredible at drafting, and Will McClay, Jerry does not let Will McClay leave, and Will McClay runs their drafting. And Will McClay, this was an old school 2014. Like, the Cowboys were the ones who just sat there and let CeeDee Lamb come to them. The Cowboys got Tyrone Smith and Zach Martin, Travis Frederick. Like, this draft where the Cowboys sat and got Tyler Booker, which everyone was like, oh, it's a reach. I think Tyler Booker is going to be a 10-year, he's going to be a multi-time all-pro guard. And then getting Izaraku at pass rusher, I can't believe they got Savon Revel, the corner. Like, I just think that the Cowboys cornerback, unfortunately, the Cowboys draft was great. And quietly getting the Texas running back, Jaden Blue.
He's electric.
I'm actually a little, it's easy to say, oh, Cowboys taking helmet scouting, taking another Texas running back. They didn't get,
he could be a Pollard version, a version of Pollard for them.
I'm a little worried that he's going to, that's actually a sneaky great running back pick. So I think the Cowboys unfortunately crushed it.
Jaden Blue ended up being in, I think Daniel Jeremiah's top 100.
Yeah,
he wasn't really on a lot of people's radars. He was just kind of like a really fast guy, but there might be something there.
Yeah.
I think I was listening to Nate Tice had his dad, Mike Tice, on his podcast before the draft. And he was talking about Tyler Booker. And obviously Booker's thing is he's a little bit lead-footed because he's just a big guy, not super athletic laterally and all that. But Mike Tice obviously he'll forget more about offensive line stuff that I'll ever know. But like,
well, my dad knows as much, but yeah, I don't know.
But
my
he was
dad
saying
knows just
he likes Booker in a pass heavy offense because he just like sets the pocket, and you can just sit there in the pocket as the quarterback, and he's just gonna set the depth of the pocket, give you a good chance to throw the football. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of starting to feel a little bit bullish about this Dak Prescott next year and coming back and this offense being a little bit better. They still need help at receiver, I think.
And
did
again,
they do anything
they're
at
thinking
receiver
about the
this year?
Eagles. They're thinking about Jalen Carter. Like, they're thinking about Tyler Booker blocking Jalen Carter for 10 years. I promise you that was talked about.
They did
They did not
do
do anything at receiver. Maybe they go get Pickens. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Pickens. That nobody got traded this
Yeah,
draft.
I think
Sam Howell was like the only trade I saw. Was there any other trades?
Very few. There were a lot of players we thought would get moved. Jalen Ramsey wants to trade Dallas Goedert. Like, I can't even list them all. Jair Alexander.
Right.
I think it probably speaks to like maybe just teams. I don't know what the feeling was on the value of some of these picks, but I do think there were far fewer trades. I mean, leading up, obviously, which I thought was more characteristic of the first round and the belief there. But then even the later drafts, I think teams just, they clearly had a different value on this draft class overall.
I mean, and that's a good
moves.
segue to something I said to you guys yesterday. I want to say it's like I was going through some of the teams. I'm like, I didn't love any of these drafts, honestly. Like I think the Patriots had a good draft. The Eagles, the Seahawks had good drafts, but there were so many teams that were just like a B-, C+. And I think the more I look at the class overall, I'm like, this just wasn't a great class. Or at least it's hard to get too excited about this class. Maybe it'll end up being a really good class, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like a ton of teams like really knocked it out of the park on this.
Are there any drafts you didn't like? You actively didn't like, TK?
Not really. No. I mean, let me look at.
You gave a C+ to the Lions, and I think you gave a C to the Bengals.
The Bengals, I think, are just really high variance. I think the Shamar Stewart pick is risky in the sense that he's a super, super athletic, but didn't produce much in college. They're the kind of team that kind of needs somebody who's going to come in and contribute right away. Like, their defense was horrific last year, and Shamar Stewart might need a little bit of a runway to develop. I don't know if that was like the right pick for them. So I think they just kind of I don't think it was a bad draft, but it just didn't get me excited. The Lions, the trade that grade only basically goes to the Isaac TeSlaa thing that I thought was kind of weird. Otherwise, like Tate Ratledge,
like Isaac TeSlaa that the Lions traded up.
two future third rounders for like a guy whose profiles as like a day 3 pick.
Am I being crazy to say that it's highly likely that Isaac TeSlaa would have fell to not just, I mean, certainly the pick that they gave up, like the 102nd pick, like TeSlaa would have. I don't know.
I mean, that's the one thing we can never know. But yeah, I mean, that's what. But
if you're doing odds, you'd be like, do you think it'll happen? Yes or no? The answer is
yes.
You would pick yes.
He was
a chance he would have fell to the 4th.
Arif Hassan does a like a consensus board or whatever, and I want to say TeSlaa was one of the worst reaches of the entire draft board, and they had to trade 2 future picks to go get him.
That's the kind of thing where like it's a tremor. For like, it's one of those things where are we just all the Lions being meatheads? Yeah. Where you have the couple great draft classes and you look back in a couple of years, the Lions fall back to earth and you're like, oh, this is like a hint of like, there's something, it's, you called it. Brad Holmes, the GM of the Lions, is feeling himself. Like he started 11 for 11 and now he's just shooting like from the logo, heat checks.
Yeah. And I also just think like, if you look at the Lions draft, it's a meat and potatoes. It's Tyleik Williams, who is a really good run defender in the first round. I don't think a lot of people had him as a first rounder. So there's maybe a slight reach there. Tate Ratledge and then Miles Frazier in the 5th round. I thought those were both good picks, but it was just like, there's no stars in this group. It's just a really down the fairway draft for them. That's why I didn't give them like a high grade. I do think they got some good players, but there's not like, this is not like a draft where you look back in a couple of years and like, oh my God, that's how they became a Super Bowl team. It's just like a couple solid contributors probably out of this class.
Okay. I have a couple random factoids here. I have some dumb shit I want to do with 2 players and a lie and an email. Is there anything else, DK, you want to get any of those you feel about this draft class before we go? Because I have a bunch of other stuff here, but
let's get to it.
All right. First, I want to do a few random factoids from this draft. 1, Houston drafted 3 guys named Jalen.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jalen's in this class, I noticed. And they all spell their names a little bit differently.
Yeah, Jalen Noel, the receiver from Iowa State, Jaylin. And then there's Jalen Smith, the cornerback from USC. And then there's Jalen Reed, the safety from Penn State. And they drafted a guy named Jaden.
Yeah, and there was a lot of like Jalen's where it's Jalen or just like a whole bunch of different spellings. I kept getting it all fucked up. But
Jalen Rose claims he was the first Jalen. Jalen Rose claims his mom basically invented the word Jalen. And and then that's where because all the Jalens are the same age. They're all the Jalens are just post Fab 5 Michigan.
Yeah. That's funny. I remember thinking that a bunch of times just studying the draft. I'm like, God, another fucking Jalen. Many Jalens.
Yeah. So
Jaden's.
Another random factoid. Tampa Bay signed as an undrafted free agent the heaviest player in NFL history. Desmond Watson, obviously he's a defensive tackle, from the University of Florida. Desmond Watson weighs 464 pounds.
Lord.
That feels too heavy. That feels too heavy.
400.
Oh my! Look at this guy. He is an absolute unit.
Desmond Watson came to college weighing 385, went to 415, then 415 to 450, and then up to 464.
He gained 100 pounds in college?
Yes.
I don't know.
Big boy.
I guess he went undrafted, so what's the big deal? Oh my God, he's huge.
Dude, I mean, this reminds me, I used to wonder, you ever seen The Italian Job?
I have.
You know, I always wondered why, like, there's this scene in Italian Job where a Desmond Watson guy just kind of has a machete and is a guard. And I always wondered why they don't put people like that at hockey and goalie. Like, isn't Desmond Watson, like, geometrically just bigger than the net? Like, he should just sit there, right? Like, he could just block the net.
Right, yeah.
Honestly, it's not a bad idea. Could he just sit? Could he literally sit on the ice in front of the net?
Just lay down.
How wide is the net?
I don't know. But you put the pads on him. You get to put pads on a 464-pound guy. DK, can someone like this play in the NFL? Like how like he's an undrafted guy?
Probably not. Yeah. You got to be able to move a little bit. I mean, he might be like an early down run plugger or something.
He's only there for tush pushes. They just put him in.
Right.
A regulation ice hockey net is 6 feet wide.
Is that regulation size or what?
Dude,
so I guess that's a little too big, probably. If you're just sitting there.
Watson is, I don't know. I can't get over 464 pounds. Okay. This one blew my mind. This is my favorite factoid from this draft. It might be my favorite factoid from many drafts. I have to triple check this, but I think this is correct. Tyler Shuck will almost certainly be the last player ever drafted in the 1900s.
Oh my. Drafted who was born in the 1900s.
Born in the 1900s.
Right.
Tyler Shuck was born in the 1900s.
He's born in the He's from the 1900s?
Almost certainly the last one.
My God.
I do think about that a lot as I age, and if we all have children and our kids get older, our kids are going to think it's disgusting that we were all born in the 1900s.
I have, Jackie had it.
Like hearing from someone from the 1800s, it just sounds weird.
Jackie had this former coworker that would make fun of me because she was younger and she was like born in 1998. And she'd be like, "You're so old." And I literally told her, I was like, "Guess what? Your grandchildren are going to see that you were born in 1990 something. They don't give a shit if it's 1992 or 1998. You were born in the other millennium. And that is how it will be your entire life. You were born from not the 2000s. Yeah. That's all we are." Do you remember that thing that went viral of the professor who posted an email from a student that was like,
amazing.
"Hey, professor, just want to make sure."
The kid walks in.
Yeah, the research is like, is it okay to cite something? I found this great paper from 1994, but is it okay to cite a research from the 1900s?
They didn't have computers back then, right?
Oh my God. I never felt older.
How'd they do research?
Books?
Sometimes I think about how we got to the moon in the 60s.
Oh, it's wild.
And I still don't really understand how that happened. Perhaps
Did we, Craig?
Yeah.
Dude, even just like clocks.
Like we got to the moon with people writing shit down on paper. What?
They were like doing the math.
Like on a chalkboard.
Right.
We didn't have expo markers.
Somebody come check my math. Yeah.
Okay.
Man, the draft is over, guys.
I know. Well,
weird.
It's not over till we do this. I would like to now that the draft is over. Craig, I would like to play a game with you called Two Guys Drafted Over the Weekend and a Lie.
Okay.
I have a few. This one is called Two Players Drafted This Weekend and One Player from the 1929 Pittsburgh Pirates.
Ooh.
You have to tell me which one of these was on the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1929 and which ones were NFL players.
Okay.
Now, Sparky Adams, Robert Longerbeam, and Gavin
Sounds like
Bartholomew.
Longer beam sounds like a euphemism for a guy that had a big dick.
Yeah. I'll read them again. One of these was the 1929 Pittsburgh Pirate, and one was drafted. Two were drafted this weekend. Sparky Adams, Robert Longerbeam,
Sparky,
and Gavin Bartholomew.
I think Longerbeam is current. Sparky Adams, if that's a nickname, that sounds very 1929 Pirates-y to me. But Gavin Bartholomew doesn't sound like an athlete in any era, really. I'm gonna go with Sparky Adams is the Pirate.
That's who I would have guessed too.
Yeah, Sparky Adams is the Pittsburgh Pirate.
Sparky is not a nickname that people use anymore. We got to give more Sparkies.
If I had picked a different one, I think I could have got you.
Yeah,
dude. Before when we adopted George, his name was originally Sparky.
Really?
Oh, your dog? Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because he was I think he was born on 4th of July or something.
You know, DK, I don't know why, but when I was a kid, I always wanted a pet named Sparky.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you want George? You can change the name back. Yeah.
I should have picked, there's a guy in the Pirates named Burley Grimes.
Whoa.
I should have picked him. Burley
Dude,
Grimes.
Robert Longerbeam.
Robert Longerbeam. Here, I have another one. These are
Bobby Longerbeam.
All right. 2 NFL players drafted this weekend and one name from the Key and Peele East-West video.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Anus Peebles.
Okay.
Ellipses Quarter.
It's not anus. It's Aeneas.
It's not ape tit. It's a petite.
The
mind.
rapists for 400.
Wait, so can I, Heifetz, I see these are in this Google Doc we're looking at. Am I allowed to look at the names or no?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I just want to see the spelling and stuff.
It's Aeneas.
Aeneas Peebles.
Aeneas Peebles.
Ellipses Quarter. Zeke Biggers.
Ellipses? Quarter? That kind of sounds like it's in the Iliad. Ellipses. I guess they all Aeneas Peebles. No, I think Aeneas. Well, but you called it anus, which means does Key and Peele call it anus? I'm gonna say the Key and Peele one is Aeneas Peebles.
He is real. You probably should have noticed that from DK being mad at how I pronounced the name.
Sorry.
Ellipses Quarter is from the Key and Peele East-West, the second one.
Was it really just
Quarter.
an ellipsis, though? Like, it wasn't actually the word ellipsis? I'm wondering if
I think it was named Ellipses. Kind of like a Greek hero.
Dude, before you guys got in here this morning, I was talking to Carlos about Zeke Biggers. Zeke Biggers, Miami Dolphin. Love that. Love that name.
They need
Zeke
someone large.
Biggers.
All right. Last one here. 2 NFL players drafted this weekend and one character from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Christ.
Oh,
you can read these guys. 2 NFL players drafted this weekend, one from Lord of the Rings. Shmael Mondon. S-M-A-E-L.
It's that one. That's Lord of the Rings.
Oronde Gadsden. O-R-O-N-D-E.
Okay.
Tom Bombadil.
I'm going with Smail.
Smail is real.
Damn.
Smail is a real player.
Which one was Lord of the Rings? Tom Bombadil?
Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil is Lord of the Rings.
He's like a character in the books that no one ever put in the movies because it's just like, why is this guy here?
Smail is literally a Georgia Bulldog. That's now a Philadelphia
Smail.
Eagle. Shmail. Sounds like a dragon.
I don't think there's a sh at the beginning, but
Well, I
like how you added that. That's good.
All right.
It does look exactly like a Lord of the. It's like he is a hobbit for sure.
He's what made me think of it. Yeah. Okay. One email here before we get out of here.
Email.
Sure.
All right. This one's from David.
Dave.
D-Bone.
We were talking in an episode 2 days ago.
Why is bone? Where'd the bone come from?
Well, it's from the Browns thing, the bone.
Why do
the Browns
people do that?
logo.
J-Bone,
T-bag.
T-Bone. I guess T-Bone steak. Did it go from there?
Yeah.
Craig, that was
T-bone
like we had a guy at the live show who came in a teabag show, Tyler, or a teabag jersey, Tyler Badgett.
Oh,
What's
yeah,
his name?
Teabag.
Bagent.
Teabag.
Teabag.
Great nickname. All right, Dave. What's up, Dave?
So I went on a rant about how dumb it was to me that the Hulu has a Chad Power show because it's like based off a fucking YouTube video. And I'm like, how are you going to make a TV show off a YouTube video?
Really?
Like
Ted
now
Lasso,
it's like,
dude.
Well, yeah, that's what the email is like. Heifetz, you're an idiot. Ted Lasso was based off
I
a
didn't even
fucking
know that was.
SNL
It was just like
commercial.
a bit on SNL. Yeah,
It was literally an advertisement for NBC getting the Premier League. That is how Ted Lasso started. That was literally all they had to work with.
I'm so
And
upset I
Sudeikis
didn't think
did
about
it.
that until right now. Yeah.
And we get many people, but David had the funniest one of just like, how stupid are you, Heifetz? Your favorite fucking show, or one of your favorite shows.
literally
is
an ad.
literally the same thing.
At least the Eli Manning one was not an ad. Yours was a fucking
Well, he wasn't
commercial.
ad. As a Red Bull funded the whole thing. It wasn't
Yeah,
ad.
but still, it was like a comedy bit.
I feel like
Ted Lasso's funny.
you can't say anything. You can't give an opinion without being a hypocrite in some way. It's
I like
hard
that.
not to be a hypocrite.
You know how, like, when Rosillo reads emails, people always start with their height and weight and how much they can bench? I think we need our own version of that. I don't know what it is, but, like, maybe it's like, David, Tampa Bay, 2 eggs and a banana for breakfast. You know? I want something. What did you have for breakfast?
Let's get submissions on that.
Last movie you watched? I want something.
Maybe just like what workplace platforms they use the most.
What movie best
Zuba.
exemplifies your life?
I like, well,
What movie do you identify the most with?
yeah. Favorite movie, most recent movie watched. I kind of like what they had for breakfast. But,
What if it's like their favorite and least favorite take we've ever said on the show?
yeah, but that requires work.
Yeah, that's true.
I want them to just be like, this is easy. I had Honey Nut Cheerios and almond milk, you know?
All right, email us what you think people should email us.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good
That's
idea,
good.
Craig.
RingerFantasyFootball@gmail.com.
Yeah.
All right, that's the draft. So we still have stuff coming out. We're still going to talk a little bit more about the draft, and we have more fantasy thoughts coming. Rookie landing spots. There was so many skill players that went.
It was
to really
1 in the
interesting
morning
spots.
last night, and I was looking up rookie dynasty
Dude.
rankings.
We're going to talk dynasty rankings. We're going to talk fantasy. We still have like more stuff coming. Real football. If you stuck with this draft, please stick with us. Like we still talk football like literally every week. We're going to have content, including more of the stuff this week. Thank you. Honestly, bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who like has been listening through the whole draft season. We love it. We hope you guys have enjoyed, and we have more coming. But very earnest thank you to everyone who
Feels
has
like
listened.
we just finished a marathon.
I know. Thank you to NFL Draft. Like everyone who worked on the draft guide. Thank everyone who read the draft guide. DK does. I don't even want to tell people how many hours DK puts into that thing. Thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, everyone that works on the draft guide. Thank you, everyone at the site. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Troy, for pinch hitting. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Everclear.
Oh, God. No,
Hey,
forget the
Heifetz, you were
alcohol.
talking about the live band in Green Bay during the weekend.
What was the deal? Yeah, so
with
there's
that?
a band, I guess, that plays during the draft, and like people can kind of hear it on the broadcast. And then I've heard through the grapevine that people don't think the band's that good. No offense to the band.
It's like a house
No
band.
offense.
But also the acoustics at the draft are kind of a nightmare. So I don't know if it's them or what, you know?
So as if the in-person draft experience couldn't get any worse, the band sucks also.
Gotta say, it looked like people were having a good time.
Well, probably the drinking and
The Go Pack Go chants, I gotta say, were super fun.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Matthew Golden like reliever walkout onto the stage was
that
sick.
alone makes it worth moving the
I
draft
kind
out
of
of
wish
Radio
I had
City.
seen that. Yeah.
I want them to keep the combine in Indy, but that literally, even last year, Tarian Arnold, the Lions walking out to Detroit, like when the player comes out to the team,
Yeah,
it
that's
is
super fun.
actually like incredible.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
You don't think it's cool?
I wouldn't
Craig.
call it incredible when Matthew Golden walks out in Green Bay.
I
thought it
know,
was
but if
cool.
you think about it from not necessarily for me, but if you think about it from his perspective, and you think about how cool it is to get drafted, and like
On a
Tyler Hooker getting
galactic
excited.
scale, not that cool.
Yeah, but the idea of walking out to like 200, like that's 150,000
Yeah.
people, and they're all like, and that's where you're gonna play, and you can see your stadium. I think that's kind of crazy.
It was pretty badass.
It's
I gotta
cool.
say.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know. I just have trouble with the draft as an entire
It could be an email.
event. People going to it. I don't. There's more people there than Coachella. I don't understand. You're going
When you put it like that, that's
It's a party.
like you would rather go watch a guy announce another guy's name at a podium than go see like Beyonce. I just don't get it. But
Dude, I will say it's funny when you could point it out when they take a random lineman and they cut to the Dolphins fans. We're like, yeah.
Oh, it's so
man,
good.
There's such a good one. I tweeted it. Some guy they announced some lineman. It was like I think it was the second round. And he's clearly like, I have no idea who the fuck this guy is.
Right.
And then he notices that he looks to the right and the camera's right on him. And then he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
His like
Yeah,
face
he really
is
did.
painted.
I want to say there was a.
If only the Browns could have like
Oh, it was
pretended
the
that excitement
Browns
when they
when
took
the
Shedeur.
Browns took Schlesinger.
Yeah.
They zoomed right in on a Browns guy, and like you said, Craig, it was like he was very clear he didn't know who this guy was. He was just like, hell yeah.
Sure. I don't know. It's good. Everclear. Remind me who they are.
Oh, they were like a band from the 90s that did not grunge. It was like surf grunge, maybe, or California grunge. I don't know how you would explain it, but really good band. I listened to a bunch when I was in middle school and high school.
Their big song is Santa Monica?
Yeah. Father of Mine. Yeah, I bet you'd recognize some of their songs. Because they're kind of big there for a while. Electra Made Me Blind or something like that. What's the name of the song?
Cool. Kind of sounds like beach punk.
Yeah, beach punk might be good. Oh, Heroin Girl was a good one. Check that out.
Nice. And the funny thing about the bands with all of us is I feel like DK's generation and kind of era of music is so like trapped in like a 7-year window that Heifetz and I know all the band, like know so much music before that era and after, but nothing in that specific spot, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you give me a band from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I'm like, sure. And then you give me some like late 90s.
Well, they were all ubiquitous
punk.
at that point. Yeah.
And then those all kind of evaporated away from the mainstream, and people still love them, obviously. And so Heifetz and I came too when it was like, I don't know, Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears. And so I just like have no idea any of these bands that you mentioned. It's funny.
It is a little bit like from the Yacht Rock movie where I think pop music got big again and then kind of drowned out all the punk stuff that I was listening to for a little bit there. There was like in the late 90s, early 2000s, punk got kind of big, like a little bit mainstream.
Yeah.
But then like pop music just kind of took back over after that. And those bands kind of faded into the background.
They became more niche.
Yeah.
And also there's just like the staggeredness of like you get frozen in time when you first have a kid, but then your kid introduces you to the new culture. So it's like my mom couldn't tell you anything about 90s rap, but she actually knows about 2000s rap because I was listening. It's like low key, like if Craig and I have kids, like we're going to get frozen in time, but then that's going to be around like when Calvin actually starts doing culture. So DK's going to actually start to know more about what's going on than we will.
Yeah.
My kid will be intimately familiar with Levels by Avicii.
Oh yeah, he's going to know.
I might name him Avicii. Who knows?
That's good. Do it backwards. Just spell it, run Levels the other way.
Run that by Liz.
John Avicii Horlbeck.
That's good.
John. I don't know why. Right? Maybe you should name it your son John.
What's wrong with John? Great
Nothing.
name.
Just
Nice
I
name.
I just can't picture Craig naming his son John for some reason. Nothing wrong with the name John at all.
Ellipses.
Great
Ellipses
name.
Avicii Horlbeck.
You guys didn't really say anything when I called James Gladstone Jimmy Stones. I feel like that should be his nickname.
Jimmy Stones is
clocked
good.
it.
Jimmy Stones, like he feels like a Goodfellas character.
Jimmy Stones is good.
It's like a character from Snatch. Jimmy Stones.
I haven't seen Snatch, actually.
Oh man.
Oh,
okay.
Jimmy Stones is
I'm
like
not going to do the
next to
cliche
Brad Pitt.
thing where I get upset about this, but Craig, it is a good movie.
It's a good time. All right, goodbye, everyone.